Another thing you can do with textures is what they call a blend. So if you go to blend here, it's basically a fancy name for a gradient. Then you can open up the colors panel and select ramp, and then you have the ability to choose which colors you want in here. So you can go with, say, red. Now if you look at this, this is solid and this is clear, and you notice there's two lines here, one here and one there. This basically means there's 2 points to this gradient. If I go here and notice the right hand side of the color is empty, that means the alpha on it is 0, which is why we're not seeing it. And of course, I don't know if you know what if you don't know what alpha is, that just means the transparency level. And on this side, you can see there's the transparency level is 100%, or sorry, 0, which means you can see everything. So to switch back and forth between these points, you can either select them or you can just use this. So if I click on this, you can see the alpha is actually at 0. So I'll crank that up to 100, and when we go back, now that looks a little better. And you can manipulate your sliders to have the gradient look exactly the way you want. You can add new sliders in the middle, make it whatever color you like. If I do a render now, the monkey's got some gradient red, blue, white stuff happening. Again, all in the texture section. You can switch the blend type to radial or whatever you like. Don't see it that well here, but if you go over to here, maybe shut off the mirror for a second. Set this to quadratic. Yeah. Radial, that should be interesting. It doesn't show much. You can see the red and the blue there, but it's probably the center point, which is why we're not seeing much. So anyway, that's it for blends. I don't use it that often, but if you ever want to do that kind of thing, then it's there for you. I encourage you to go through this menu. There's all kinds of stuff going on, different various things you can try. Wood's kind of interesting. Now the other thing you can do for a texture is you can import an image. So if you go here and you say image or movie, I still have the ramp on. I'll shut that off. Then you can open an image. So I'll go into this folder. Here's my clip art right there. So I just opened that up. Now it looks like hell. I'll get rid of the ramp. Now it still looks like hell. So I'll click show alpha, and you can actually see now that because this is a ping, that the alpha portion of it was removed. Now I got this off the internet, so it wasn't saved very well. There's a couple extra artifacts, but one thing you'll notice is it's tiled. We want to get rid of that. So we'll go down to the image mapping panel and set it to clip. And now there's only one. And then in the mapping sub panel, make sure the projection is set to flat. Now if I go back over to the material, you can see there's a, hey, that actually kind of worked out cool. Let's see how that looks. It almost mapped quite nicely onto the monkey, although it also mapped onto this plane as well. Let me escape out of that. We can size this down, and you can see that I'm using the same texture for both of these guys, so you can actually see the image there. Like I said, it's bad quality, so that stuff shouldn't be there. If you made one yourself in Illustrator, then obviously you would have more control over that. So I'll select the blue monkey and go over and actually disable this texture so that at least he looks normal. She, he, there we go. So yeah, one of the other things you can do is you can dictate where the image, you can crop it, and you can also have its offset. So if you put it on a circle, for example, actually why don't we do that? I'll just delete the monkey. I'll add a UV sphere, select it, smooth, go to the modifiers, add a subsurf, grab it and move it over here, go back to my materials, I'll go back to where do I want to go here? I'll go back to the blue ball. Actually no, I don't want blue ball, I want the monkey one. So now, if I render that, it's probably going to look terrible. But you can also see where the monkey is basically on this sphere. If I go into here and I change the mapping size, first of all, let's make it a little smaller. And I render it, that ended up making it a little bigger. That's nice. But you get the idea. There we go. So that made it quite a bit smaller. And then you can mess around with the position. See, it completely disappeared there. So you can fine tune where you want the image to show up on the texture. I seem to have completely lost it. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it's coming up there as well. So that's one way to get an image on a material. There's another way, a better way, that you can do it that will allow you to sort of paste it as a decal. So let's do that next. I'll escape out of there, go to the front view. So I will go here and actually set this back to blue. Now, let's say I want to get that skull and crossbones at a very particular spot, or, you know, basically I want to apply it as a decal. So here's what you do. Select a point, snap your cursor to the selected, and add an empty. Oops. You have to be out of edit mode. Add an empty. There we go. Give the empty a name. Call it decal. Now that obviously isn't a decal. Go back to your object here. Now go to the materials. Add the texture. Okay, now here's the key. You've got to go down to the mapping panel. Let me just close these up. So obviously we still have this image loaded. Go down to the mapping go down to the mapping panel, and for coordinates you want to select object, and then for the object we had the decal empty. I should have called it decal empty, but I'll just select decal. And now what I'm saying is I want to map this to this empty, and because this empty is currently exactly at a point on the sphere, that's where it'll get mapped to. So if I render it, you can see it got mapped exactly where I asked it to. Now it's obvious it's too big, so if I resize this, it shrinks it. This allows you to place a decal pretty much anywhere you want. If I rotate it, it rotates it. So if you're making cars or anything at all that has decals, or you know, even if you want to draw a windshield on a car or anything at all, you can model it as a, you can create it as a ping image, and then you can basically stick it anywhere you want on a model. So if I select this and I snap my cursor to this portion, and then I go out and I snap the empty to that to the cursor, I do a render, and I've moved it to a different spot. I use that all the time for, like I said, for doing decals. I modeled a pirate ship recently, which is why I did the skull and crossbones here. I remembered that, and I was able to put a skull and crossbones right on the on one of the sails, which ended up looking really good when I did a render. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to show you is multiple colors on one mesh. So let's take this ball for example. We'll not worry about the materials. I can actually, oops, I can actually just get rid of them here. That doesn't mean that they're gone. It just means nobody's using them for now. Now, right now, if we scroll up, there's one material here for this blue ball, but I can have as many materials as I want. And if I click plus, it'll create a new one, and in there I can actually put an existing material, or I can create my own. So then, how do I apply that to this mesh? Well, actually I'm going to rotate the mesh. So let's say I wanted one half of the mesh this color and the other one the blue. So I would simply highlight, let's make sure we got it all yet. Highlight the top that I want to be this different color, select the color I want it to be, and click assign, and that's it. So now the ball is half blue, half whatever this color is, purple. I can add another one, make it a new one, make it yellow, select this portion, click assign, Now the ball's yeller. That's right, I'm saying yeller. Assign the bottom part yeller. Do a render. Well, you can't see the bottom part, but you get the idea. What I often use this for is, let's say I'm modeling a car. I know I go back to the car all the time. But let's say I'm modeling a car and I want to keep all the meshes together. So I'm in tab mode and I create another mesh. I create a mesh for the headlight, and then I create another mesh in the headlight for the actual lamp itself, which is sort of sticking out. Let me just get rid of this one actually. So now when I get out of that, I have two meshes, but I might want this one to be, it's one mesh, but there's two meshes in it that are they're sort of joined together, and I want this one to be one color, and I want the other one to be a different color. Well, that's when you would start adding materials, and because this is one mesh, you can have as many materials as you want in here, and you can assign them literally to any spot you want. You can even select one face, for example, go to material, click assign. Now when I tab out, it's assigned to that just one face. It's all kinds of places where this comes in real handy. And it looks kind of cool. The last thing I'm going to show you is world, which is not really material related. If you go up to here to the world button, right now our world looks gray. You can turn on various types of sky. This will allow you to go so I can actually go blue here, and go back here and go more white. So you have a nice blue at the top, nice white at the bottom. If I do a render, you can see it automatically puts that in for you. It's good as a default background, I guess. I don't generally use it that often. I'll keep it a flat color most of the time, but if I'm doing something that needs a horizon, or a lot of times when you're doing space related stuff, you want it to look more like the reds and blacks of space. Let's make this a little darker here. Looks a little more space-ish, I guess, or Halloween-ish. I don't know, take your choice. So again, that's something you can mess around with if you want a nice world background. I don't use it that often, but it is there if you need it. There's something here called ambient occlusion. I use it once in a while. If you go to my pi-guy.com webpage, if you look at the 3D models that I have there, any of the ones that are white, that have sort of shadows, there's no texture, they're not wireframes, but the white, sort of flat white with shadows, that's ambient occlusion. I haven't used it in a while, and I find the results a little strange. Because I haven't used it, I don't understand how to use it the way it is now, but you can get some really cool and interesting effects with that. Anyway, that concludes my tutorial on materials. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next video.